That is a kind of revision. Okay, we'll start with our lecture for today. Remember, in our last lecture, we are discussing the methods of valuation. The last topic we had was the methods of valuation. And of the methods of valuation, last one we did not discuss is the income approach to valuation. The income approach to valuation. So we'll take off from there, conclude, and then come back to valuation again and see if we can explain a few things about income approach to valuation. If you remember in our last lecture, I said I will take the methods of valuation under 4 headings. The names they are called in different textbooks, the properties where they can be used, the types of properties where they can be used, the steps involved in the method, and the problems you are likely to encounter. The problems you are likely to encounter. So for the income approach, we have textbooks that call it the investment method. Some other textbooks call it the capitalization method. Yet others call it income capitalization method. The last one shows exactly what the valuer is doing. Income capitalization. Income capitalization. This method of valuation is used for investment properties. Investment properties. Investment properties are those properties that are really constructed for investment. Investment properties are those properties that are actually constructed for investment. And by that, I mean properties that are constructed to yield income. To yield income. Income producing properties. These are investment properties. And such properties can be residential properties, which include tenement rooms, block of flats, duplexes, bungalows, mansions, mansionettes, and other forms of semi-detached, detached, whether duplex or bungalow, terraced buildings. These are all investment properties. They also include commercial properties, shops, malls, offices, warehouse, and other forms of commercial properties. Apart from residential and commercial, any other type of investment property that yields income, for the owner, you can use the income approach. You can use the income approach. One of our professors, Professor I.U. Kalu, says that one thing about the income approach is that it is the only method of valuation that can be used to value different interests that exist in a property. It is the only method of valuation that can value different interests. It can value leasehold interest, it can value freehold interest, it can value sublease, it can value sub-underlease. So this is one of the methods of valuation that you can use to value all the interests that exist in a property. The steps involved. The first step in the investment method of valuation The first step in investment valuation to calculate the anticipated net income. To calculate the anticipated net income. The net income. Valuation is not done with gross income because when the landlord receives his net income, he has to deduct his gross income. There are some expenses he has to make. There are some expenses he has to make. So those expenses must be deducted. So we must not make the mistake of valuing a property with gross income. It will lead to overvaluation. It will lead to overvaluation. So the first step in the valuation for income approach is to calculate all the income that is coming from the property. All the income. This will give us the gross profit, gross income. From the gross income, we now deduct outgoings. When we are discussing income here now, you will notice that some income are real income. Some income are notional income. Real income is the one you have collected. Notional income is the one that you are yet to collect, but you know you will collect it. It's notional because it is not yet received. Sometimes notional income is also there, but may never be collected. For instance, if you are living in your own house, if you are living in your own house, you notice that you are living in what we call owner-occupier building. An owner-occupier does not pay rent. An owner-occupier does not pay rent. But you notice that if you want to value that property, it is possible to determine the rent by making reference to other properties within the neighborhood. Because the owner doesn't pay rent, you have to find the equivalent rent. Equivalent rent. Equivalent rent is rent paid on similar properties within a neighborhood. That equivalent rent is also notional rent. Notional because the landlord will never collect it. He cannot pay rent to himself. Then, in doing valuation again, you must differentiate between rent received, rent reserved, and the anticipated rent that is to come in the future. All these must be taken into consideration in determining the gross income. Whether it is rent you have already received, whether it is rent that is reserved, whether it is rent that is anticipated, you must add all of them to arrive at the gross income. When you arrive at the gross income, we deduct outgoings. We deduct outgoings. You will notice also that some students believe that outgoings is only management fee. Outgoing is only agency fee. Hmm? It's, it's only management fee. It's only management fee. But a detailed study will show you that outgoing is not just management agency fee. It is not. Rent paid to the superior landlord is part of outgoings. Property rates, taxes, insurance, bad debts. Bad debts are debts that are uncollectible. Bad debt owed by a tenant who has already moved out. Void. There are times when a property is void. That means there's nobody in the property. And because there's nobody in the property, landlord is losing rent. It's also part of outgoings. Bills are also part of outgoings. Electricity bills, water bills, gas, telephone bills. These are all part of outgoings. They are all part of outgoings. Municipal charges. So, it is the responsibility of the valuer to know those outgoings that accrue in the property he's valuing. And when you have calculated the outgoings, you deduct it from the gross income to arrive at the net income. I must point out also, if possible, you should write this down because it's very important. It's very important. Number one, I have said that valuation must be done with net income. That is gross income minus outgoings. Number two, valuation must be done with income for 1 year. It must be done with income for 1 year. So if you check the income and you see that it is a monthly income, it means immediately that you will multiply by 12 to get the income for 1 year. If you notice that the income you were given is quarterly income, it means you multiply by 4 to get the yearly income. If you also notice that the income is half yearly, it also means that you multiply by 2 to get the yearly income. Some income are daily income, daily, like what you see in brothels and hotels. If you notice that the income of the house is daily, it means that you multiply by 365 days. So we have mentioned that we must value with net income, not gross income. Number two, we must value with income for 1 year, annual income. The last one, which is important again, is that we must not take into consideration expired rent. We must not take into consideration expired rent. Anything that is expired is gone. Just like in the church, we are told that yesterday is not important. What is important is today and tomorrow. In valuation, rent for yesterday is no longer important. What is important is the unexpired rent. Unexpired rent. Rent for today and tomorrow. That is what is important. So, we need to always remember that rent must be net income. Rent must be rent for 1 year. And that any rent that has expired is not taken into consideration. Very important. Step two. Step two is to select an appropriate YP. To select an appropriate YP. YP is simply the present value of 1 naira per annum. Present value of 1 naira per annum. If you go to your valuation table, the column that represents YP is the present value of 1 naira per annum. If you go back to the construction and analysis of valuation table, you will see that there is a table that is called present value. There is also a table that is called present value of 1 naira per annum. There are two different things. They are not the same. Present value tries to determine the time value of money. In other words, if you have 100 naira or you have 100,000 naira and you are prepared to give somebody 100,000 naira now, but if the person can wait, when you come home for December, you will give him 150,000. The question then is 100,000 naira now and 150,000 naira in December. Which one is more valuable? Which one is more certain? See that many people will go for 100,000 naira now because the value of 150,000 in December may not even be up to 100,000 naira now. Secondly, there is uncertainty. This uncertainty is that I'm not even sure that I will be alive till December to collect the 100,000 naira. So let me collect the one that I can see now. That is present value of 1 naira. But present value of 1 naira per annum is talking about the present value of the right to receive an income in naira at the end of the year. Mark the word, at the end of the year. For n years, n represents the number of years at I rate of interest, compound interest. I represent the rate of interest. So, present value of 1 naira per annum is the same thing as YP. So, the second step in the investment method of valuation is to pick the appropriate YP. For you to be able to choose the appropriate YP, two things are involved. You must be sure of which YP table that we are talking about. You should also be sure of the YP rate that you are interested in. The YP table, the YP rate. If you are discussing the YP table, there are 4 types. There are 4 types. The first one is a YP single rate. Second one is YP in perpetuity. Third one is YP of a reversion to perpetuity, YP dual rate. The first 3 on your screen, number 1, 2, and 3, are used to value the landlord's interest. Number 1, 2, and 3 are used to value the landlord's interest. Number 4 is used to value the tenant's interest. And when I say the tenants, I mean the tenants, the subtenant, and the sub-under tenant. They are all categorized as tenants. You will notice that whenever a tenant pays to the landlord a rent that is full rental value, I repeat, whenever a tenant pays to the landlord a rent that is full rental value, I repeat, whenever a tenant pays a rent to the landlord and that rent is full rental value, you must value that full rental value with YP in PEP, YP in perpetuity. So YP in perpetuity is used to value full rental value. So if you are solving a problem, valuation problem, whether in the exam or in real life situation, and you have decided to use the income approach, The first question you ask yourself is, the rent I'm valuing, is it full rental value? Is it full rental value? If it is full rental value, that means the landlord is collecting the full rental value, and the YP you will use to value it is YP in perpetuity. Remember that always. If you notice again that the rent is not full rental value, that the rent you are valuing is not full rental value, that means the landlord is collecting a rent that is less than the full rental value. Any rent that is less than full rental value is called the head rent. Head, as in my head rent. H-E-A-D. H-E-A-D. Head rent. Head rent is simply a rent that is less than the full rental value. Head rent is simply a rent that is less than the full rental value. Whenever the landlord is collecting a rent that is less than full rental value, then the YP to be used to value that rent is the YP single rate. Rent that is less than full rental value must be valued with YP single rate. YP single rate. YP single rate. So the first situation is when the landlord is collecting full rental value. And if the landlord is collecting full rental value, you must use YP in PEP. If the landlord is collecting a rent that is less than full rental value, then we must value that rent with YP single rate. If you check on your screen, you will see that YP in PEP has the formula 1 over I. You will also see that YP single rate has the formula 1 minus PV all over I, where PV represents present value. For the landlord, the last situation is the YP of a reversion to perpetuity. YP of a reversion to perpetuity. Whenever a landlord is collecting head rent, that is rent that is less than full the rental value, on the understanding that when that rent expires, the property will revert back to the landlord, and the landlord will start collecting full rental value. The landlord is currently collecting head rent. Well, we are hoping that in a few years' time, the head rent will expire, and that will mean that the landlord will now start collecting the full rental value. That is called reversion to perpetuity. Reversion to perpetuity. So when a landlord has to wait for the head rent to expire before he starts collecting full rental value, that is reversion to perpetuity. And such reversion is valued with YP of a reversion to perpetuity, which is 1 over IA. 1 over IA. 1 over IA. The last table, which is leasehold interest. All the categories of leasehold interest. Leasehold, sublease, sub-underlease. That also reminds us now that in a property, there are bundles of rights. There are bundles of rights. The landlord being the highest in quantum. The landlord is the freehold interest. His right is the freehold right. The landlord gives out to a tenant and creates a leasehold interest. The leaseholder gives out to a sublease holder and creates a sublease. Gives to a subtenant and creates a sublease. The subleasee can also give to a sub-under-leasee, and he creates what we call a sub-under-lease. All these should be valued with YP dual rate. YP dual rate. So, for YP rate, remember we said two things are involved: YP table and YP rate. We have mentioned the four YP tables: YP single rate, YP in perpetuity, YP of a reversion to perpetuity, and YP dual rate. For the table, that is for the rates, property rate, YP rate, sorry. For the YP rate, it depends on what you are valuing. Depends on the interest you are valuing, whether it is freehold interest or leasehold interest. If you are valuing a freehold interest, the valuer is supposed to choose a single rate YP between 1 and 100%, between 1% and 100%, between 1% and 100%. 1% being the best YP, 1% being the best YP, and 100% being the worst. So it's not like if you give 100%, you are giving the best value. No. When you give 100%, you are giving the worst value, because if you do the calculation very well, you will see that if the formula is 1 over I, and I represent 1%, and I represent 1%. If you want to do that calculation, you will now see that it will translate into 1 over 1 multiplied by 100 over 1. 1 over 1 multiplied by 100 over 1. When you cancel out, you will see that the YP you have is YP of 100. That is the best YP you can ever have. But if the YP is 100%, then what you will do is 1 over 1 multiplied by 100 over 100. 1 over 1 multiplied by 100 over 100. When you cancel out, the result is 1. And you see that 100% gives us the worst YP. So when you want to choose YP, you go closer to 1 if you want to get a higher value. You go closer to 100, sorry. You go closer to 100 when you want to get a lower value. But in practice, valuers use between YP of 4 and YP of 25. The reason being that there is no perfect house. There is no house that is perfect. So YP of 1, YP of 2, or YP of 3 are reserved for perfect buildings. But knowing fully well that there's no house that is perfect. If you finish a new house today, there are small minor repairs you are expected to do in that house. For that reason, we take 4%. You go also to 25% because we don't go beyond 25% because when you are doing valuation for insurance, you will see that one of the qualities of insurance valuation is that understands that land is indestructible. So no matter how bad that place is, the land element can still give you some value. So you can't go beyond the 25. It is not normal to see any valuer that has gone beyond the 25. Okay, so for leasehold interest, for leasehold interest, for you to choose a YP, there must be two rates of interest. That is why we say dual rates. Dual rates, two rates of interest. The first rate of interest represents the return on investment by the tenant. Return on investment by the tenant. It is representing the single rate YP as we have seen in that of the freehold interest. But we have to choose another rate of interest that is called the accumulative rate of interest. The accumulative rate of interest being the rate at which interest accumulates in the account. If you get into town and you go to any bank, your own bank, open a savings account, find out from your bank how much, at what percent they pay interest in your savings account. You will see that for your savings account, your interest rate doesn't go beyond 2 and 4%. It doesn't go beyond 2 and 4%. The reason why you must use the interest rate is that the tenant has an interest that expires. The interest of the tenant is a wasting asset, where they refer to it as a wasting asset. Wasting in the sense that from the day the tenant moves in, his interest starts running. Just like if you light a cigarette, as long as you have lit the cigarette, whether you are smoking it or you are not smoking it, the cigarette will continue to burn out. So once you pay rent and you sign an agreement, whether you move into the house or you don't move into the house, your rent is running. And even if you have paid for 5 years, it means that at the expiration of your rent, you either pack out or you renew the rent. The tenant therefore has to open an account where he develops a sinking fund. That sinking fund will help him to pay another rent in the next 5 years. So two rates of interest, the remunerative rate and the accumulative rate. If it is only freehold interest, just the remunerative rate. But if it is leasehold interest, both the remunerative and the accumulative rates of interest. The remunerative rates of interest, you can choose between 4 and 25, depending on the performance of the property. The accumulative rate of interest, you can choose between 2 and 4%, being the rates at which interest accumulates in savings account. The moment you are able to determine the YP, the third step, is to capitalize. The third step is to capitalize. What do we mean by capitalization? Capitalization simply means multiply the net income with the appropriate YP. And that is why the basic income approach formula is net income times YP is equal to capital value. Net income times YP is equal to capital value. So that exercise of multiplying the net income with the YP is called capitalization. Capitalization. And that is why the YP is sometimes called the multiplier. The YP is also called the multiplier, multiplying the net income to arrive at the capital value. If you are using this method of valuation, there are some problems that you are likely to encounter. There are some problems that you are likely to encounter. The first one is that the method cannot be used to value non-income producing properties. Once a property is not income producing, it is difficult to use this method to value it. So one of the underlying principles is that this method is used to value properties that are income producing. Properties where there is rent passing. Properties where there is rent passing. Another problem is that the method requires a number of estimates and assumptions. It requires a number of estimates and assumptions, especially in determining YP. You need to assume quite a number of things. Number three, any error in choosing YP derails the process. Any error in choosing YP derails the process. The method can only be used in a stable economy. The method can only be used in a stable economy. That is why that method, the valuation table that we use, was actually developed in the UK. A white man I was discussing with some time ago openly said that this investment method we are using in Nigeria was developed from the market in UK. That we need to come down here in our own country and develop our own tables. And what you will see is that in a country like ours that is irregular and erratic, a country where cement today is 2,350 naira. Tomorrow you come to the 800, 3,000. It's a very irregular economy. So using YP that should be used in a stable economy to value properties here is really, really very, very risky. And for that reason, some people say that this method of valuation is mostly used as a check on other methods. So when you value with other methods, you try to use the investment method approach to value. That will also give you an example or give you a side-by-side comparison between what you have done and what you are expected to do. So we have discussed the investment method of valuation, and we said an investment method income approach can be used for investment properties that are income producing. The first step is to calculate the net income, gross income minus outgoings. The moment you are able to do that, the next step is to select the appropriate YP. You must pick the correct YP table, which can be single rate, YP in PEP, YP of a reversion to PEP, YP dual rate. The next one is to choose a YP rate, which can be remunerative or accumulative or both. And in that situation, you must be careful whether you are valuing with single rates or you're valuing with dual rates. Single rate for landlords valuation, dual rate for tenants valuation. The third step is to capitalize. When you have the net income and you have the YP, you capitalize. We have also mentioned the problems you're likely to encounter if you are using this method. That brings us to the end of the lecture in methods of valuation. We'll break off now from valuation so that we can handle entrepreneurship in real estate. When we are through with that, we'll now go back and look at the valuation. We'll try to see if we can do some minor elementary calculation. Remember, at the beginning of this lecture, I announced that students or candidates should join the lecture in valuation and plant and machinery valuation. That was what was instructed. I am supposed to take care of the PPE section. Okay, entrepreneurship in real estate. Entrepreneurship in real estate. One thing I'm sure is that you need to be extremely careful with the spelling of that word, entrepreneurship, because even me that is giving the lecture, sometimes the spelling gives me problem. So try as much as possible to be sure of the correct spelling of entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. The word entrepreneur was taken from a French word, entreprendre, which means to undertake, which means to undertake. So, any person who undertakes to organize, manage, and assume the risk of a business can be referred to as an entrepreneur. Anyone who undertakes to organize, manage, and to assume the risk of a business can be seen to be an entrepreneur. If you want to put it in another way, entrepreneurs are innovators who implement entrepreneurial change within the market as follows. Entrepreneurial change within the market as follows. Number one, or A, entrepreneurs are those who introduce a new good or product into the market. They always come up with new products, new or improved products or goods. Sometimes it can also be services, goods and services. Entrepreneurs can also introduce a new method of production. In other words, apart from introducing a new good or product or service, they can come up with new methods of production, especially a method that saves costs. With the improvement in technology, technology helps us to produce faster and to come up with better products. So a good entrepreneur can develop a new method of manufacturing a product. An entrepreneur can also be a person who opens a new market. What do I mean by opening a new market? Opening a new line of marketing, a new way of marketing. So these are areas where entrepreneurs can be recognized. An entrepreneur can also exploit a new source of supply. An entrepreneur may decide to exploit it or exploit it. An entrepreneur can believe in re-engineering and reorganization of a business management process. Re-engineering or organization of a business management process. These are areas that entrepreneurs can come in. If we want to summarize, we can say an entrepreneur therefore equates to the following. Number one, innovation in business sense. Innovation in business sense. Identification of new market opportunities. Identification of new market opportunities. Entrepreneur can also mean being ingenious and creative. Being ingenious and creative. An ingenious person is a genius. A genius is an ingenious person. And somebody can be ingenious and at the same time creative. An entrepreneur means finding ways to add to wealth, to add to power, and to add to prestige. Finding new ways of starting and running new businesses for profit. Finding new ways of starting and running new businesses for profit. Notice that a good entrepreneur can start a new business. He can also run the new business for profit. Entrepreneurship is simply occupational choice between being self-employed and taking a wage employment. So an entrepreneur is one who wants to be self-employed. One who wants to be self-employed can be seen as an entrepreneur. Importance of entrepreneurship. Importance of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is important because it leads to identifying, assessing, and exploiting new opportunities. It leads to identifying, assessing, and exploiting opportunities. The next one is important because entrepreneur leads to creating new firms and renewing existing ones. A good entrepreneur can come up with existing firms, existing businesses, and at the same time, they can revitalize or renew existing ones. Entrepreneurs tries to drive the economy forward through innovation, competence, job creation, and improving the well-being of themselves and their employees. The well-being of themselves and their employees. We can also view entrepreneurship from the following perspective. The need to satisfy the urge of being one's boss. The need to satisfy the urge of being your own boss. Need to be financially independent. That is what every person is looking forward to be financially independent. The need to use your own skill and knowledge positively, trying to use your skills positively. The need to satisfy a perceived want, being able to meet your wants and your needs. From economic point of view, we must differentiate between wants and needs. They need to be wealthy. Entrepreneurship helps one to be wealthy. They need to be able to pay up your expenses. In other words, you are debt free. You don't owe anybody. The next one, they need to get rid of idleness. Entrepreneurship helps us to get rid of idleness. The qualities of an entrepreneur. The qualities of an entrepreneur.
And life not finished.
Questions often arise. Questions often arise. Are entrepreneurs born or made? Are entrepreneurs born or made? A lot of arguments have been made in favor and against. A lot of arguments have been made in favor and against. But whether the entrepreneur is born or whether he is made, an entrepreneur must possess the following qualities. An entrepreneur must possess the following qualities. An entrepreneur should be creative, very creative. Creative in the sense that he has to create new ideas, come up with new ideas, completely different from what others already know. And that is ingenuity.
Don't be part of the class.
Dedication. Please, kindly mute your mic. Mute your mic. At the end of the lecture, we'll take questions. But this idea of people talking at the background is not good for this lecture. If you are listening to me, please mute your mic. So, creativity, dedication. Every entrepreneur is dedicated, being dedicated to duty. And that is the essence of training. When you undergo training, we expect you to acquire some qualities of dedication, being dedicated to your work. When you are given an assignment to perform, you go after that assignment with dedication. An entrepreneur should be determined too, determination. He must be determined to succeed. Some people give in so easily to failure. And that is why the white man says, if you fail and you did not succeed, try again. Some people try and fail 1,000 times, but in the 1,001 time, they succeed. So determination is a quality that an entrepreneur should have. Flexibility. One thing that is constant in life is change. One thing that is constant in life is change. You should be amenable to change. There's no hard and fast rule about anything. There's no hard and fast rule about anything. You must be flexible to an extent. Leadership. An entrepreneur must have very good leadership qualities. Very good leadership qualities. He must have passion for what he does. He must have a passion for it. Self-confidence. Self-confidence. An entrepreneur should be self-confident. Mustn't be afraid all the time, afraid of failure. An entrepreneur must be confident in himself, determined to succeed, dedicated to his work. Self-confidence is very, very necessary. Then he must be a risk taker. Some of us, myself, we are risk averse. That means when we see risk, we run away. But you notice that in real life situation, risky businesses come up with a very high remuneration. So some of them are risk takers. I ran into one of my ex-students one day, and I noticed there were some long trucks, just like Dangote trucks, that has his name on it. And I asked him, "This thing I'm seeing, is it you? Is it your name?" He said, "Yes, sir." We said, "Let's try our luck." Bought trucks, close to 30 of them. Took a bank loan, bought close to 20 trucks, and went into lifting of cement, haulage of cement. For some of us, we were thinking he was making a mistake. How can you go into motor vehicle business? But these days, when I'm with him, you'll be surprised at the way he talks. He told me that the bank removes 120 million from his account, that he doesn't know why. And I said 120 million removed from your account, and you are still sitting down here saying you don't know why. That means if the bank took 120 million, then be sure that in that account there's more than a billion naira. So risk takers are the best entrepreneurs. Team players, the world is becoming a global village. For you to succeed, you must play as a team. You must be part of a team. So, very, very important. You must possess fundamental skills. Even if you are ingenious, there are basic skills we expect you to have. And what are these skills? Communication skills, being able to communicate in English, being able to speak in English, being able to write in English, being able to communicate. These are fundamental skills. The last time we discussed in lecture 1, we mentioned some of the skills that can make somebody employable. Finally, an entrepreneur must have a vision, a clear vision, a purpose, what you are set to achieve. You must not be gambling up and down, go right, go left, go right, go backwards, go front. No, you must know exactly what you want, have a vision, and you pursue that vision. Have a vision, and you pursue that vision. So it's important that an entrepreneur should develop. Can somebody mute his mic? If you are talking, please mute your mic. Very important. Please mute your mic. Factors supporting real estate entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Why do we want you, as young graduates, to become entrepreneurs in real estate? Why are you seeking this election? Why do you want to write this exam, get elected? Simple truth is that you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be an entrepreneur. What are the opportunities for entrepreneurship in Nigeria, especially in the real estate industry? The following is in your favor. Number 1, shelter is a basic necessity in life. No matter how you look at it, everybody needs shelter. And as long as you are in the real estate world, it is something that will be done day in, day out. Day in, day out. Very important. People can afford to feed morning, afternoon, and night. People also must find a place to put their head. So, shelter is a basic necessity of life. As long as there is life, there must be shelter. So, As long as there is need for shelter, you are in business. Number two, we have very few registered estate surveyors and valuers in Nigeria. Very, very few. They are saying that population of Nigeria is now 200 and something million. But you'll be surprised that registered estate surveyors and valuers in Nigeria is yet less than 6,000. It's yet less than 6,000. So we need more registered surveyors that can handle the real estate problems of our teeming population. Number three, housing deficit. United Nations, World Bank, and other organizations that had to do with habitat.
Hello?
They have all pointed out that the housing deficit in Nigeria is on the high side. Housing deficit in Nigeria is on the high side.
Hello?
Not to talk of housing quality. Not to talk of housing quality. Housing quality. So because housing deficit is on the high side, it creates a lot of opportunity for our people to fill the gap, fill the gap in housing. That is why one of the very juicy part of our profession is property development. The moment you are able to settle into property development, you will see that the profession is a very interesting profession. You will also notice that there are many unregistered title documents. People still carry CFOs, still carry power of attorneys, leases, indentures, a lot of documents, MOUs that are unregistered. And that means creates opportunity for us to advise our clients to register their documents, to have the ultimate document, which is the certificate of occupancy. And that is why, as an estate surveyor and valuer, you must know what we call the root documents. Root documents. ROOTS or ROOT. Root documents. The root documents are documents you can present to ministry in application for a certificate of occupancy. Those documents include the lease, indenture, building lease, and all those documents that used to exist before 29th March of 1978. From 29th March 1978, the certificate of occupancy came into being. Good. The next one is that valuation. People always need valuation for assets for various purposes. Valuation of assets for various purposes. The last time we discussed the purpose of valuation, and you see that a lot of people in Nigeria need valuation because of a number of purposes. Banks can't give loan unless there is a valuation. Insurance companies can't take a insurance policy, unless there is a valuation. You will see that valuation can be used for a number of purposes. And that means when you become an entrepreneur, you can pursue businesses in the area of valuation. Another supporting factor to your being an entrepreneur is the Nigerian population. We have an open market, very, very large market, a market of about 200 and something million people. It requires a lot of entrepreneurs to meet up with the needs of the people. The next one is that real estate is a very important investment medium. We just talked about investment properties. And investment properties are properties that yield income. So for you as an entrepreneur, you can exploit that area of coming up with quite a number of investment properties. A number of investment properties. The next one, which is also very interesting, is that all activities in the world take place on land. There's nothing that you do that doesn't take place on land. And that means your services will be renewed from time to time to help in land matters, land-related issues. Finally, this course is interesting because currently there is no data bank. Someone has to sit down and organize the data bank. And if possible, when the data bank is well organized, you can still make money out of it because from time to time, people will consult you for information and you give them information for a fee. These are some of the arguments that support real estate entrepreneurship in Nigeria. How to become an entrepreneur? How to become an entrepreneur in Nigeria? How to become an entrepreneur in Nigeria? To become an entrepreneur in Nigeria, there are quite a number of things that must come to your mind. Number one, you must come up with a business idea. Incubation and validation of a business idea. In our second lecture, I mentioned every great achievement in this world started as an idea in somebody's mind. All great achievements in this world started as an idea in somebody's mind. And for that reason, a good entrepreneur must come up with a business idea. And to come up with a business idea, you should have ready answers for the following important questions. You must have ready ideas for the following important questions. Can I create a special demand for a business product or service? Can I create demand for a particular product or service? What will be the unique selling point of the business product stroke service? Where exactly can you sell them? In other words, you can ask yourself, what is your target market? What is your target market? Who are you targeting? Who are the people you have in mind to market your products to? Number three, what advantage do I have over existing firms? The issue of competition comes in. How do I overcome competition? How do I overcome competition? Very important. The next one is what is my target market? Who am I producing for? Where will I find such people? How do I get across to such people? The target market. Very, very important. Will people be able to afford my product or service? Can people afford it? Can they pay for it? If they can pay for it, then it means they can afford it. What technical skill do I need to produce this product or service? You must find the necessary technical skill. Will my idea be able to find fill a particular need? Will this idea be able to fill a particular need? If yes, then you are on the verge of being a good entrepreneur. The next one is to register a business name. By the time you pass your exam, we expect you to go to CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. and register a business name. When you get there, it is possible that you can register as a sole proprietor, register as a partnership. Also, we have private limited. As I said in one of my lectures earlier, the institution is now encouraging mega firms, big firms. We don't want you to go and start practicing as a sole proprietor. Form partnerships. Partnerships should merge into bigger firms, mega firms. When you have mega firms, what you will see is that your competitive ability is increased tremendously. Your competitive ability is increased tremendously. In the past, the institution insisted that nobody should practice as a limited liability company. The door is now thrown open. As long as you can project our profession and project the institution and the board is not restricting you this time around not to practice as a limited liability company. So you register your business name either as a sole proprietorship or one-man business, or you can go and partner with somebody. Where you don't want to partner with somebody, you can go straight and start a limited liability company. The next one is, after registering your business name, you must register with a professional body and a regulatory body. In our own case, you need to register with the institution and the board. Register with the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, and at the same time, register with the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria. They are our regulatory body. Next one is to prepare a business plan. You must come up with a business plan. And when you are drawing up the business plan, a number of things should come into play. You must have your mission statement. Your mission statement. You must also have a vision statement. Vision statement. You must state your objectives. You must set your goals. You must set your strategies. You must also have a good forecast into the future. Immediately after your business plan, the next thing is to set up a practice. To set up a practice. Setting up a practice is not an easy thing. Setting up a practice is not an easy thing. It requires quite a number of emotional, financial, and personal things. For instance, setting up an office will mean finding an office space. Finding an office space. It's not usually very easy because for you to be an estate surveyor and valuer, you need to stay in a good location. And if you are looking for a good location, sometimes you need to pay rent. And that means you need to combine a number of things. You need to be smart enough to come up with the money to pay for rent of an accommodation somewhere. Once you have paid the rent, another responsibility comes in: furniture and equipment. Equipping the office. Some people believe that the office should have a corporate outlook. It should have a corporate outlook. Corporate outlook. The type of furniture you put, the type of equipment you put will determine whether your office is a corporate office or not. Then stationaries. You need to buy stationaries that can help you work. working tools in the office. You need to buy up some working tools, some computers. This is the computer age. All your workers must be good in working with the computer. Same thing with other hand tools. Apart from computers, there are other office equipment that are regarded as hand tools. Then it will be time to recruit staff recruitment. You need to be extremely careful in who you recruit. Need to be very, very careful. Find some people that are quite humble. Humble in the sense that apart from the professional knowledge, you still need to get them level headed. And as far as recruitment is concerned, you must put square pegs in square holes. It will be wrong to take a square pole and put in round holes. Very, very unnecessary. The next one is to source for briefs. That is the mainstay of practice, getting the jobs. Getting the jobs. It is important that you must come up with a plan to get jobs. A good surveyor does not sit in the office. A good surveyor does not sit in the office. Gone are days when surveyors sit in the office and jobs come looking for them. These days, surveyors go out to look for jobs. And that means you must look for retainership of not just banks and other very buoyant industries and offices. You must seek their retainership. If you get their retainership, then retainership for management, retainership for facility management, retainership for valuation. Apart from that, you should visit the ministries, MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies from time to time, seeking for one job or the other. You can write proposals, and when you write these proposals, you send them out and use them to solicit for briefs. You must write letters, all kinds of letters. You must be good in them. Imagine what will happen when you are starting a firm of your own, but you cannot write simple, correct English in your letters. It affects your image immediately. So sourcing of briefs can take you to so many places. Some estate surveyors go ahead to join some very interesting clubs like Ikoyi Club in Lagos. In Enugu, there's a club they call the Sports Club. Sports Club. When you join these clubs, you are likely to meet the clients, the correct clientele. And if you have the correct clientele, you now need to be in business. The next one is financing the business. Can't do business without money. And whenever you are talking about financing a business, we said that the last time, you finance businesses from two sources. The first source being internal finance, second one being external finance. If you want to look at it in another way, you can say you can finance business from savings and borrowing. Some people say the equity and debt. That we are talking about the same thing. The next is managing the business. Managing the business. Whenever we talk about managing the business, managing properties, managing facilities, few things come to my head. They say an estate surveyor and valuer have some management functions. management functions. And these management functions include planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. So when you are managing a business, you must plan, you must organize, you must direct, you must also control. Very, very important. Skills requirement for an entrepreneur to work very well. He must acquire some skills. Skills in business idea generation. Skills in business idea generation. Identification of opportunities. Identification of opportunities. Being able to identify business ideas. Creating new opportunities. Creating new products. Finding a way to reduce costs. Quality of improvement. Discovering new processes. These are ingenuity of the entrepreneur. Business restructuring. Business restructuring. It is the duty of a good entrepreneur to restructure his business when he sees it's not working well. Our business of Nigeria, a lot of people have been calling for restructuring. But those who are ingenious, our managers, are finding it difficult to accept that we need restructuring. And that means joint venture when it is necessary. Go into alliance with other organizations if it is necessary. Come up with technical partners. Find partners in your business. These will help you to restructure the business and make it revitalize. The next one is business planning strategies. Business planning strategies. Business planning strategies. Strategies for survival. Strategies for growth. Strategies for expansion of the business. Strategies for downsizing the business when it is necessary. These are all important for the running of an entrepreneurship. Human resource skills. Human resource skills. When we talk about human resource skills, the entrepreneur should have the following skills. Skills in recruitment of staff. Recruitment of staff. Skills in wages and salaries. When to add money to your workers, to remove money for your workers. Skills on how to do promotion. Understanding when you have to train your staff and retrain. Allowing your staff to build a career. Making sure that there is mentorship. That there is mentorship. That there is mentorship. That is why some people are expected to work under estate surveyors and valuers, acquire some skill and technical knowledge before opening their own. The World Bank, United Nations have also, in a very special way, recognized Nigeria in terms of mentorship, especially Southeast Nigeria, where somebody goes to join a business as an apprentice. He is mentored for 2 to 7 years, between 2 to 7 years. After that period, the person is settled with some money or with some goods, and it helps the person immediately to settle and start his or her own business. And some people believe it is better that your child is greater than you than as an old person you are greater than all your children. The next one is communication skills. The best communication method world over is face-to-face communication. Face-to-face communication is interesting, so beautiful, because it depends on what people call body language. It helps you to read the body language. Probably with this Zoom, people can read the body language of the lecturer. When you are standing face to face with somebody and you are communicating with that person, the person may be saying one thing, but the body language is saying a different thing. And that means we must develop some communication skills. Communication with telephone is the worst, because these days the greatest lies are told on a telephone. You may be behind a man who is owing you money, and you call the person. Where are you? And he will tell you he's in Lagos. And he's a man who is standing with you in Enugu. So, communication skills, ability to understand communication with telephone, knowing fully well that somebody can tell you, you will see me in 2 minutes. You wait for another 2 hours, you will not see the person. You need to develop very good communication skills in terms of letter writing. Letter writing. A lot of people accuse our young graduates these days that they cannot write letters. People accuse our young graduates that they cannot write letters. But this is correct, because I have the opportunity of working with a lot of young people, even to write application for employment. Not to talk about writing proposals, writing reports. These are all problems. And these days, when you have the social media, we have made the situation work by writing shorthand. Leave me alone. Thunder fire you. All those things go to destroy even the little ones that you know. Because when you are asked to write a report, the report may be a local report, it may be a national report, it may be an international report. It has to be standard. You are not excused in any way simply because you studied in Nigeria or you are an entrepreneur in Nigeria. It is world best practices. You must conform with world best practices. You must differentiate between a letter and a memo. I always ask my students that question. What's the difference between a letter and a memo? If I ask you in the class now, you will see that a lot of people may not know the difference. A letter, a memo, is a communication document that circulates within a particular organization. A memo is a communication document that circulates within an organization. For instance, I'm a lecturer in Enugu State University of Science and Technology. If I'm writing a memo, it means that the memo circulates within a suit. A memo cannot go outside a suit. But a letter, I can write a letter from a suit to Lagos State University. You can now see that a memo circulates within an organization, while letters can circulate both within and outside that organization. Very, very important. So, these days, We have social media communication. Social media communication. You will see that as an estate surveyor and valuer, it is impossible for you to function without the social media. A lot of our people now use social media as a means of advertising their products. Some advertise on Facebook. Some advertise on WhatsApp. Some on Instagram, on Twitter. We use this social media as a means of communication. A good entrepreneur must be very good in them. Decision-making skills. Decision-making skills. A good entrepreneur must know the rational decision-making process. Rational decision-making process. If you have your writing materials, I didn't include it here, but it's necessary that you remember them. It is necessary that you remember them. It is necessary that you remember them. The rational decision-making process follows the scientific process. Follows the scientific process. And what is that process? Number one, you have to identify the problem. What is the problem you are trying to solve? Problem identification, according to the white man, is halfway towards the solution of the problem. When you have identified your problem, you have gone halfway into the solution of your problem. That is why if you are sick, the next thing is for you to go to the hospital. But if you don't realize that you are sick, you will carry sickness and be going. And before you know what is happening, there is sudden death. So when you really realize that you have a problem, that is when you begin to seek solution to that problem. And that is why the first step in a rational decision-making process is to identify that you have a problem. Immediately after that, the next thing is to gather information. Gather information. Information of late has become a very important factor of production. And that is why some people can stay in the comfort of their homes through the internet and get all the information that they need. And I am telling you, information is power. Information has some very interesting characteristics. So, as far as I'm concerned, in the rational decision-making process, the first step is to identify the problem. The second step is to find data that can help you to solve the problem. Some data you collect can be good data, some can be bad data. Some you collect will be good, some will be bad. And that is why the thought process is to analyze the information, analyze the data. The worst thing that can happen to any professional, the worst thing that can happen to any entrepreneur is to act on face value. To act on face value. That is not true. Any information you receive should be properly investigated. Any information you receive should be properly investigated. Very, very important. The reason why you need to investigate information is to sieve out the good information from the bad information. Some information may be sent to you just to mislead you. Just to mislead you. I'll give you an example. I was told a story of two young girls who live in the same house. And then a young man approaches. A young man approaches one of them. Please, will you marry me? And she said, let me think about it. So she goes around to her roommate and says, look, he's proposing to me. And the roommate says, my friend, shine your eye, you. How can you marry this person? Can he feed you? Can you walk on the road with him? What will you tell your friends who will you tell your friends that he is? And eventually the girl went back and told the man, no, I will not marry you. And the man looked around and saw his roommate and quickly walked up to the roommate. Look, will you marry me? And the roommate quickly said, yes, I'll marry you. And on the day of the wedding, if there's anything you know that will stop this marriage, please say it or forever remain silent. And the young girl raised her hand. Young girl, what is the problem? He proposed to me first, and my friend said I should not marry him. My brothers and sisters, if you are the pastor, what will you do? Of course, the wedding should go on because the woman was not able to analyze his information. So, identify the problem, collect data, analyze the data. Always analyze the information. Somebody walks up to you and tell you anything. Analyze the information before. Number 4, the next step is to project into the future. When you are looking for solution to a problem, don't look for an immediate solution. Look for a lasting solution. If you are having headache, once you take paracetamol, the headache goes away. But after 4 hours, it comes back. The reason is that you are taking paracetamol. Paracetamol is a drug for headache. When the effect of paracetamol withers away, the headache comes back. So if you want to treat the headache, you must look for the root cause of the headache. If you treat the root cause, then the headache goes away. The same way, we must run away from immediate solution. Rather, we should be looking for lasting solution. Because in the process of immediate solution, you may create a more serious problem. But if you are looking for a lasting solution, then you can look for a once and for all solution. You can look for a once and for all solution. So, for you to solve a problem, you must project into the future. Know exactly what is the solution now, and then project into the future and see the dynamics of the problem and how the problem can change in the future, and then come up with a solution that is lasting, projecting into the future. That is number 4. Immediately after that, the next thing is to come up with alternative plans, alternative solutions. Come up with alternative plans. These alternative plans must be weighed in terms of cost and benefit. Some plans are good plans. Some other plans are not very good plans because they are not cost effective. A good plan is a plan that is cost effective. So when you come up with alternative plans, the next point is to evaluate the plans in terms of cost and benefits. What our people call cost benefit analysis. Cost benefit analysis. Remember, in appraisal, it is not just cost benefit analysis. We can do cash flow analysis. We can do internal rate of returns. We can do external rate of returns. We can do all kinds of financial ratios just for us to know whether our plan is a good plan or is a bad plan. Then the last level in the rational decision-making process is to make a choice to make a choice out of the alternative plans. And that is why people talk about scientific processes, objective processes, subjective processes, and art. One of the questions they ask about estate management is estate management science or art? Estate management is partly science and partly art. If you want to put it in a very sweet way, estate management is science molded carefully with art. Estate management is science molded carefully with art. What does that mean? It means that in the procedure I have just mentioned to you, identify the problem, collect data, number 2. Number 3, analyze the data. Number 4, project into the future. Number 5, come up with alternative plans. Number 6, weigh the plans in terms of cost and benefits. If you follow that procedure, you are following a scientific
So please
procedure.
repeat the number
You are
6
doing
again.
science. Number 1, identify the problem. Number 2, collect data. Number 3, identify the data. Number 3, analyze the data.
Solve it.
Analyze the data. Number 4, project into the future. Project into the future. Number 5, come up with alternative plans. Come up with alternative plans. Plan A, plan B, plan C. You must have alternative plans all the time. Alternative plans all the time. Plan A, plan B. If plan A fails, you start implementing plan B immediately. If plan B fails, you start implementing plan C immediately. I tell my students, if you go to write exam, you come into exam with only one biro, I will laugh at you because you have only plan A. You have no plan B. If anything happens to your biro, you start raising up your hand to borrow biro. It means that you are not an estate surveyor. You are not prepared. So, come up with alternative plans. Number 6, evaluate the plans in terms of cost and benefits. Weigh the plans in terms of cost and benefit. Evaluate the plans in terms of cost and benefit. The last one is choice. Make a choice from the alternative plans. The last one is the choice, and that choice depends on judgment. And you cannot make a good judgment if you don't have the wisdom. For you to make a good judgment, you need wisdom. That is why some people say there is nothing like common sense, because there is no sense that is common. For you to make common sense, you must have that wisdom. And you can't teach somebody to be a wise person. You can never teach anybody to be a wise person. And that is why in Nigeria, oil was discovered in element, and somebody in his right senses decided to build the first refinery in Kaduna. It shows you that choice is subjective. What you want to do, you do it. So number 1 to number 6 is a scientific process. But that last one, which is choice, is art. So estate management is science molded carefully with art. The next one is marketing skills. An entrepreneur should have marketing skills. When I say marketing skills, at first, marketing was talking about production. Produce, we'll sell it. After some time, they found out that it was no longer possible for them to sell because people don't want what they have produced. They changed. came up with improved products. But at the time, they had run into problem again. Many improved products, competition came in. Today, marketing is talking about finding out first what people want, then going back to produce it. So in estate management, if you are into property development, it will not be right for you to go and build a house and then start looking for somebody to buy it. The correct thing to do is to find out the type of the type of house that people are looking for. The type of house that doesn't last 1 week in the market. If you are able to find that type of house, you go and construct it. Once you are finishing, somebody buys it under 1 month, under 2 weeks, under 3 weeks. And that means you are really using your marketing skill. The same way, pricing. If you have a new product and this product is coming into the market for the first time, knowing fully well that there is competition, one thing you can do is to reduce your price. That's what we call target pricing. You reduce market penetration strategy. They call it market penetration strategy. You enter the market and reduce your price. People will start using your product and they will run away immediately from those ones that are very expensive. Then gradually you start increasing until you bring your price where you want it to be. So marketing skills is also very, very necessary. The next one is time management skills. Time management skills, very, very important. Time management is one of the greatest problems that young people have. But if you check our development from primary school to the university, to this exam, this particular exam that you are trying to write, you will notice that there has always been a timetable. Primary school, there is time for everything. And once you hear the bell, you know what the bell is. And those days in the primary school, the sweetest bell is the bell that says you should go on break. And then another sweet one is the one that says it is time to go home. In the university, it's the same way. There is time for all the lectures, timetable. And that is why even when you are preparing your wedding, there is a wedding program. That is time management. Time management. Very, very important. Very, very, very important. So for any entrepreneur, there is always a timetable. There's always a timetable. And if you want to organize your life as a person, there must be timetable for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Timetable. And if you look at the timetable, you know what you're supposed to be doing at each point in time. Time management is a very, very important thing. That is why there must be a program. Even if you are preparing a birthday party, there's a program for the party. If you don't have a program, then you dance, and at the end of the dancing, what happens? And at the end of the dancing, what happens? Everybody goes home. No, there must be timetable. I always tell my students, the earlier you learn to develop timetable for yourself, the better for us. Again, you can see some of our colleagues who work in banks, they are given targets, goals. You must achieve this within so and so time. That is time management. And for those of you who did project management, you will see that one of the greatest and most difficult things to do in project management is project scheduling. And when you are doing the scheduling, you need to apportion time to such things. So a good entrepreneur must have very good time management skills. The one that is also very interested is that of financial management. Financial management. There are people who are not good in managing finances, and that is why you should identify early. If you are a man and you don't manage finances well, if you are getting married, find a good financial manager. If you are a woman and you don't manage finances well, if you are getting married, find a man that is a good financial management. And when we're talking about financial management, the following are necessary. Cash management. Cash management. Please write this down. It's very important. Write this down. It's very important. We manage cash for three important reasons. We manage cash for three important reasons. Number one, for transaction. For day-to-day transaction. Day-to-day transaction. You need money to do your daily transaction. Pay for your vehicle, buy whatever you want to buy. That is called transactionary money. Number two, we need money for speculation. Speculation. We need money for speculation. What do we mean by that? The last lecture, we talked about land speculation. People who buy and sell land for profit. So there are times when you speculate something you know that is sold very expensive. All of a sudden you come across and they say they are doing promo. And because they are doing promo, the price is half of what it used to be. You need money that you will go immediately and pick money and buy that thing. That is speculative money. You must keep money. You must keep money for speculation. The last one, which is also very important. The last one, which is also very important. You can keep money for eventualities. Eventualities. So, my brother, my sister, it is not necessary to spend all the money you have all the times. And that is why in economics, are you listening? In economics, the name of the game is savings and investment. You cannot invest unless you save. You cannot invest unless you save. I'm telling you, as a student, you cannot buy a new shoe except you skip some meals. Skip some meals and save. So investment is the name of the game. And that is why, for the factors of production, each one has its own remuneration. Land, we have rent. Labor, we have wages and salary. Capital gets us interest. Once you invest, you get interest. And finally, enterprise gets us profit.
Profit.
Enterprise
Or
gets
dividend.
us profit.
Shares.
Profit. Now, you will see that when you have a diversified source of income, you collect rent from your house, you get your salary, you get a alert from your investment, your fixed deposit account, your other types of investment, and then profit from other businesses you have. You will see that that will help you to become a wealthy man. There's a big difference between wealth and riches. There are two different things. A rich man is a person who has cash. A rich man is a person who has cash. But a wealthy man is somebody who has cash,
An investment.
buildings, machines, plant and machinery, plant and equipment, motor vehicles, shares, bonds, debentures. He has diversified investment. And that is what you are taught in portfolio management, property portfolio management. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Always spread your investment. All those people who stocked money in the bank, when NSAS started, the bank stopped working. And some people were really, really hungry. Really, really, really hungry. But if you diversify your investment, when there is no cash, you will have other means of survival. We have inventory management. For those of you who remember, when you are managing inventory, then there are 3 sets of inventory to manage. The raw materials, raw materials, raw materials, work in progress, work in progress, and finished products. Finished products. Raw materials, work in progress, and finished products. You must maintain a balance. Some of your warehouse should have raw materials. Some of your warehouse should have finished products. Then work in progress should be within the factory. A balance must be struck between these 3. Because if you have a lot of raw materials, it means that you don't have a finished products. So people, you have nothing to sell. If you have a lot of finished products and there is no market for the finished product, it means that you cannot buy raw materials. If you have raw materials, you have finished products, and you don't have work in progress, it means that when you finish selling your finished product, there is nothing again to bring out for sales. So in financial management, we maintain a balance between raw material, work in progress, and finished products. You must take that into consideration. Then financial management also talks about bookkeeping, banking transactions. Banking transactions. Remember, I asked my students, what are those things that can make a bank not to honor a check? What are those things? If you have a check, what are those things that will make a bank not to honor it? What it simply means is that as a good estate surveyor and valuer, any day you receive a check, any day you receive a check, look at the check properly immediately and find out why you cannot cash that check. Because once the man moves away, you may not find him again, especially when you don't have the person's contact or you don't have need for the person's contact. So it will be also stressing if your boss signs a check for you, go and cash this money. You spend money for transport and go to bank. Get to the bank, stand on the queue, only for you to get to the cashier, and the cashier says, look, we can't pay this check, and gives you a reason. So the following reasons a bank may not honor a check for the following reasons. Number 1, if the check is a post-dated check, that means the check is still in the future. If it's a post-dated check, you have to wait for that date. Number 2, they will not pay you if the check has expired. Somebody will ask me, which one is expiring again? A check lasts for 6 months. So if somebody gave you a check on July 1st, you can still cash it today. A check lasts for 6 months before it expires. A few weeks ago, I was in my village and my parish priest was complaining. Somebody brought a check to the church and gave him the check, and he misplaced it. So 2 weeks ago when I came, he found the check and noticed that the check has stayed in hideout for 8 months. That means he can no longer cash the check. So he was asking me, do you know this person? So that he can go and beg the person to write the check. So as far as I'm concerned, if somebody gives you a check, look at the date and find out whether it is a postdated check or an expired check. Bank will not honor a check when there is no signature, or whether the signature is irregular. These days, nobody talks about irregularity because the system has your picture, and most things are now done online. But some years back, a lot of people don't get paid because the signature on the check is irregular. The bank will not honor the check if the amount is not written both in words and in figures. They will not honor a check if the check doesn't contain the amount in figures and in words. Bank will not honor your check if there is a difference between the figure and the word. You write 200,000, but in the figure you mistakenly wrote 20,000. The bank will not pay. The next one, the bank will not pay if the check is mutilated. There is mutilation, and that mutilation was not countersigned. So when somebody mutilates, ask the person to countersign. Countersign. So countersigning means the person should sign on top or below the mutilation. The bank will not honor the check if the check is closed or crossed, a cross check. Once it is a cross check, the bank will ask you to pay it into an account for it to clear. When a businessman gives a cross check, it means that he wants the check to take some time before it clears. Some people also use it to buy time. They'll give you a check and call their bank, pay this check so and so time. So a check is crossed when there is 2 lines in the middle of the check. There are some checks that don't have 2 lines in the middle of the check. Once there is no 2 lines, the check is an open check. But when there are 2 lines, tell the person that the check is a cross check, that you can't cash it. For you to cash it, he needs to open the check. And what does opening the check mean? It means that he should sign in between that crossed lines. He should sign in between those crossed lines. There are so many other reasons why a bank may not be able to pay a check. If there's no money in the account, they will not pay. If there is no money in the account, they will not pay. If there's no money in the account, they will not pay. So with these things I have mentioned now, it is necessary that any day you receive a check, take time to look at the check so that you don't suffer some embarrassment, waste time, waste money, waste energy, only for you to be told that the check cannot be honored. In my office here in town, almost all my staff are very good in it now because I will ask you to look at the check and tell me why the bank will not pay. And sometimes they will look at it and tell me, Oga, you made a mistake on the date. Then you do the correction. Some people make a mistake. Assuming a check was issued today, and on the check, they wrote yesterday's or 2 days ago or 3 days ago date. Some people would say, Oga, you wrote the wrong date. It's not today's date. Please. It immediately shows that you're a bushman because you don't know that a check lasts for 6 months. So please don't make that kind of mistake by arguing that the date on the check is not current. It's very, very important. Again, we are seeing business ethics management, business ethics. You will see that from first lecture to second lecture to the third lecture, and this is the fourth lecture, the issue of ethics is coming up. Code of conduct, character, very, very important. Very, very important. What makes us graduates is actually our character. And I mentioned it the day you graduated, the day you did your convocation. What they said is, I have found them worthy in character and learning. The first one is character. Learning is the second one. It is your character that makes you a graduate. And that is why every profession has its own rules and regulations. We refer to them as ethics and code of conduct. And you can also see that I have included the word etiquette. Etiquette. Every rule and regulation regulating a profession is that profession's etiquette. Please always remember that. Then finally, evaluation of skills. Whenever we talk about evaluation, the first thing that comes to mind is feasibility and viability. Being able to evaluate your business. Is it feasible? Is it viable? Technical feasibility, financial feasibility, legal feasibility, economic feasibility, socio-political feasibility. These are feasibility indicators. Feasibility indicators. So you must check your business technically. You must check your business financially. You must check your business legally. You must check your business economically, demand and supply, and then socio-political influences that can affect your business. These are very, very important. Finally, problems of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Problems of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. Problems of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. One of the greatest problems facing entrepreneurship in Nigeria is indiscipline. Indiscipline. The same ethics. The same ethics. You know, when you see people who are disciplined, you admire them. But acquiring discipline takes a lot. It takes a lot. I'll give you an example, just a joke. We attended a meeting, and our friend who is hosting the meeting brought out a keg of palm wine. And immediately he dropped the keg of palm wine on the table. Everybody started laughing. because the plastic container he used to bring the palm wine is white. So you could see that he gave us half of the palm wine. And the chairman of the meeting asked, Oga, why did you give us half of a keg? And the man said, please forgive us, that he brought the keg, and his family started drinking the keg, and they drank and brought it to half. And I told him, this is the height of indiscipline, something you brought to give to your visitors as cola. Your long truth didn't allow you to leave it until your visitors come. You drank it half before you brought it out. That is height of indiscipline. And my people, the best thing you can do is to shape your life in terms of rules and regulations. As professionals, what keeps us going is our character. I don't want to overemphasize that because I've talked about it many times. The next thing is lack of skills. Lack of skills. One great problem we have as entrepreneurs in Nigeria is lack of skills. And I feel very bad when my students, my graduates, call me on the phone. And why are they calling me? They want me to start teaching them on the phone what I taught them in school. I have been lecturing. This is my fourth lecture with you. I don't rush lectures. I take my time and I make sure the student doesn't take the lecture as something to help him pass exams. I make sure the student understands the lecture as something that will help him or her survive in life. But when we will be teaching, some students will feel that we are disturbing them. Do that thing fast so that we can go. They're wasting our time. They graduate with lack of skills, doesn't know anything, doesn't know property management, doesn't know property development, he doesn't know estate agency, he doesn't even know valuation. Then, when he has graduated and he is working with Jide Taiwo, they ask him, go and value so and so property. He says, yes, sir. Then he drives out, stops on the way, takes the phone and starts calling his teacher. Oga, how is family? How is our school? I hope everybody is fine. And you think he's remembering the school. He has a problem. Oh. What is the problem? He doesn't know the skill of valuation, doesn't know how to value a property. It's a problem. And for entrepreneurship, it is very, very poor if you don't have the necessary skills. The next one, poor remuneration. This one is very serious. I'm also guilty of it. When you work in a firm of estate surveyors and valuer, some valuers still pay their workers 10,000. Some don't even pay. They give you 5,000 and tell you you are in the field. We expect you to be making something. And when you make something, they will start shouting, you are doing business outside. Poor remuneration is a very serious problem. And that is why there is strike always in the civil service. People are shouting. I heard a bag of rice is now 20-something thousand. And now minimum wage, we are still talking about
32,000, sir. 32,000.
A bag of rice is 32,000. And
Yes,
minimum wage is 30,000. Who is fooling who? Who is fooling who? So one of the problems of entrepreneurship is poor remuneration. Very, very poor remuneration. The next one is retainership issues. There are some people who don't give you job except if you have their retainerships. We have argued and argued against this when I was in the board. That board should write to banks, write to big companies. There's nothing there. It is so bad that a bank will say this company has retainership. And that means every valuation that comes from that bank must be done by that person. If a client who is coming for a loan brings his own valuation report from his own valuer, the bank will reject it. It's a terrible thing. But we are now seeing a situation where the institution is trying to come up with an online activity monitoring. A situation where you can monitor valuation, property management, property development online. They're trying to see if they can use that to stop banks from rejecting valuations from people who don't have retainership with them. And that online activity also have legal practitioners, so that if a bank rejects your valuation, you click on legal practitioner and report immediately. And once that report comes up, the legal practitioners will go after the bank and find out why. But you notice also that one of the reasons why the banks reject some valuation reports is because of lack of skills. Many of our people don't have the requisite skills, and that is a big problem. The next one is poor legislation. Poor legislation. You notice that most laws in Nigeria are hardly implemented. Not just that they are hardly implemented, they are hardly reviewed. Let's take, for instance, the Land Use Decree of 1978. From 1978 to 2020, it's almost 68 years, if I'm right, or rather 58 years. And you can see that for 58 years, people are saying this law is obsolete. Review it. Government says no. Rather, they put it as part of the Nigerian constitution. And if you go to the Land Use Decree, you will also see a section that says that any other thing written in any law in Nigeria, including the Nigerian constitution, cannot change what is in the Land Use Decree. So the Land Use Decree is a law that is above our constitution. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? This is a terrible thing. But what can we do? We must survive. We have competition. That is the greatest problem we have in Nigeria, where you have 200 million people. What you see is copying, copy, 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 copy. Start any business, and people feel that the business is moving. The business is replicated everywhere, to the extent that even you who started it, you cannot even survive. You cannot even make anything out of the business again. Very serious competition. And there are no patent laws. No patent laws. If you invent something, you should enjoy your invention. And that is where the white man is better. People who invent, once you have an invention, royalty comes to you from what you invented. And those days, not now, no, not now. You will notice that people like Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, the man that just died this year, what's his name, the poet? Can't remember, J.P. Clark. All of them made a lot of money out of patents for their book, from their books. They give their manuscript to a publishing company. A company edits the manuscript and starts printing and selling and return their royalty. Compare that with what lecturers are doing in the universities now. The lecturer is the author, is the publisher, is the marketer, is all and all. There are no patents anymore. So people who come up with very good inventions end up very, very poor as far as our country is concerned. That is also why some of our musicians die very, very poor. Most of them die very poor. The last time I visited Lagos, I heard Shina Peters is now as poor as anything. Anyway, these are some of the problems. In my own side, there's a popular musician they would call Mike Ejara. Mike Ejara. He died a wretch. That is because there are no patents. Unethical conducts, we have talked about ethics before. The next one is external influences. This one is one of the killers of all businesses. And you know, in Nigeria, if you are lucky and your business lasts for 5 years, then you are a good manager, because the business environment in Nigeria has so many negative external influences. The waste management company will come. The business premises will come. The people from Ministry of Health will come. Ministry of Environment will come. Capital Territory will come. This one will come. That one will come. The one that is everybody is shouting about now in Enugu is that government is talking about youth empowerment. If you are building any house, some people will come from local government and say, pay youth empowerment. And people are beginning to ask, is it only in the housing sector that youths are empowered? Why don't you go to agriculture and do youth empowerment? Why don't you go to other sectors of the economy, industries, and do youth empowerment? These are all external influences. Apart from government, we have the communities, the Omoniles, the area boys, the one Chiago in Southeast. All of them are external influences that destroy businesses. The worst is double, quadruple sector, six sector, quadruple taxation. The way people are taxed. Different government organizations, they come. Local government will come. State government will come. Government agencies will come. Last year, the issue of land use charge became wildfire all over the country. Lagos started it. It spread everywhere. And today, I don't know what has become of the land use charge. So external influences are also problems to entrepreneurship development. We have inflation. The rate of inflation in Nigeria is terrible. 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 I keep saying it. We have an irregular and erratic economy, terrible economy, and such things promote competition, and young businesses that are trying to survive will always fizzle out. Quacks. There are so many quacks. We are talking about estate surveyors. Quacks are taking over. Quacks are doing different kinds of things now. Property development, quacks. Property management, quacks. Estate agency. They are even bigger in number, higher in number. Same thing with touts. We have a lot of people who practice as touts. There are some estate surveyors around us who now practice as touts. And when you invite them to do a job in your office, you see that they are already practicing like quacks. They can't do any basic thing officially. Officially, they don't know how to do official things. So these are some of the problems with entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And I am hoping that these lectures will be of use to you. Last time we talked about break, and I'm hoping that we'll break and see if we can come back later. Those in favor, say hi.
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 Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi.
Names, just one name.
Okay. We'll take
Hi.
questions.
Hi. Hi.
We'll take your questions and then we go for
Hi.
break. Questions? Let me check the. Okay, somebody is asking. Good day, sir. Yarima. I missed previous days' lectures. Please, how do I get the video or the recorded lectures? The previous video lectures are on the platform. I pasted them on the platform, WhatsApp platform. Unfortunately, I've not seen this guy today. Somebody should please paste the link for the WhatsApp for Yarima. Link for WhatsApp. Please, somebody should paste it here so that Yarima can have it. And the next question, please explain more on remuneration. Remuneration. That is from Informa Joy. I explained that I tried to say that there is poor remuneration in Nigeria. Poor remuneration in Nigeria. What people pay their workers in Nigeria is very, very poor. Both government is guilty. The same thing with private entrepreneurs. And I gave example with a bag of rice being 32,000. A bag of rice, 32,000. And minimum wage is 30,000. Minimum wage is 30,000. You can see that the remuneration is too poor. The remuneration is too poor. Okay, thank you. Olu Atomisin has pasted the link. So Yarima, if you look at your message inbox, you will see. Farouk, I am not the one who asks people on WhatsApp. So somebody who can add Farouk, Farouk should do that. But Farouk, look at the link above your message. It will bring you into the WhatsApp.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Then somebody is talking about remunerative and accumulative rates. Remunerative rates. The remunerative rate of interest is the rate of interest on investment. Whenever you invest money, you expect remuneration. You expect some kind of benefit from your investment. And that is the remunerative rate of interest. For freehold interest, the remunerative rate is the single rate. The remunerative rate is the single rate. But for leasehold interest, there are two rates of interest. The two rates of interest are the remunerative rate, representing the investment the leaseholder has made, because the fact that he paid rent, he has made an investment and he needs some benefits on his investment. The second one is the accumulative rate of interest, which is the sinking fund. A sinking fund is like an account where you pay in money at the end of every year, such that the money you have paid in, the interest accrued savings account is a sinking fund. So The difference between remunerative rate and accumulative rate is that the remunerative rate is return on your investment, while the accumulative rate is the rate of accruing savings, so that you can make another payment in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years, as the case may be, knowing fully well that leasehold interest is a wasting asset. So it is important that you always remember the difference between remunerative rate and accumulative rate. Somebody wanted to ask a question.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, sir, I'm sorry to take you back. Can I have the WhatsApp this for the last lecture, please? Sorry, I'm sorry about that.
The last lecture is on the WhatsApp. If you click on your messages column,
okay,
check on your screen, you will see comments and messages. If you open it, there's a link you will see that will take you into the WhatsApp.
Okay, sir.
Then,
Thank
if
you,
you
sir.
enter the WhatsApp, just ask them to repaste the previous lectures. I will paste this one
Okay,
immediately after this lecture. This one
Okay,
we
thank
did
you, sir.
today, I'll paste it immediately after the lecture.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yes, sir, please, sorry for taking you back. Please, when we did agency relationship, in our study pack, they showed us where they wrote obligations of the agent to the principal and the responsibilities of the agent. Is there any difference between two of them, sir?
Obligations of the agent to the principal and what?
And the responsibilities of the agent, are there any difference between the two? Because when we
They are
look
the
at
same
it,
thing.
it's almost the same thing. Yes, sir.
Yes, I think it's the same thing. It's just a matter of nomenclature.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other question? Any other question?
No. No, for now, sir.
Okay, so permit me to find out, when are we coming back? It's 1:37.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, sir.
Okay, 2 o'clock.
Thank you, sir.
Calculation. YP and
138.